Good morning, everybody. This is a subcommittee of the House Committee on Housing, and specifically to work on SB 188 FN, a bill entitled Allowing Independent Permitting and Inspections and Allowing Local Governments to Authorize Licensed Engineers and Architects to Perform Building Code and Inspections. We're going to allocate a small amount of time towards any testimony this morning. And so I would ask that if you have something you want to tell us, we'll give you 3 minutes or maybe a little more, but we can only give us about 25 or 30 minutes to taking new input. So is there anybody that has anything you'd like to say? Well, Mr. Hagan first, Mr. Phillips, is it second?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here today representing New Hampshire Building Officials Association. I'm the vice president. Mr. Chair and honorable members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with this committee today regarding Senate Bill 188. I'm here today on behalf of New Hampshire building officials in collaboration with a group of building professionals, municipal officials, and code experts who have reviewed Senate Bill 188 with great interest and thorough consideration. In the spirit of constructive collaboration, several of us have respectfully taken the initiative to reformat key provisions in Senate Bill 188, already established in the state building code. Wherever possible, we believe that this approach helps preserve the original intent of the Senate bill, while also enhancing clarity and ensuring consistency of the existing state statutes. New Hampshire Building Officials Association previously testified in both the state, the Senate, and the House committees in regards to this bill, and provided a list of identified statutory and procedural conflicts. We are excited to now have the opportunity to work directly with the subcommittee and offer actionable recommendations. Our shared goal is to help resolve inconsistencies, support effective governance in regards to Senate Bill 188, and reflect best practices already functioning in many communities in New Hampshire already. It's my understanding the committee saw our proposed amendments on this. I think it was forwarded by Phil Sherman. So the intent of the framework of the bill, this aims to enhance and improve the effectiveness, enforceability, and practical application. NHBOA recommends that these adjustments be incorporated directly into the bill and language, ensure clarity and consistency. I don't know if you wanted to go over some of those 7 points that were in it. Phil, we worked directly with the Building Code Review Board with Phil Sherman, the chair, to kind of incorporate those directly into the building code. So it's easy read. We don't have to go into statute to understand it. It's right in the building code. So all of any designers, architects, engineers that are going to be using this for not only inspections, but also for the permitting process, it's right in one location. We don't have to go to statute to figure out how to do it. It's right in the code.
I would like to hear at least the 7 headlines.
Sure. I'm going to share my time with Phil Sherman, Chair
Sure.
Sherman, if you don't mind. He's going to go over the 7 points that we codified into the building code to make sure that Senate Bill 188, the intent was maintained.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, if I could start by clarifying a couple of points. One, this is not a building code review board proposal. I worked with Mike and others as the scribe, if you will, to kind of pull this thing together into code language. My job is not to advocate one way or the other for this bill, but to assist you all in understanding how the various parts of the statutes fit together, and especially when they hit the street and how they might get interpreted. Furthermore, I was primarily responsible for the model code integration, if you will. NHBOA is more or less responsible for the changes. So I made some editorial stuff to make it all work, but in terms of the things that are actually being proposed to change the intent of the bill here and there, that's on NHBOA's side. The second thing to just keep in mind, as some of you are well aware, is that the model codes themselves within the state building code carry the weight of statute. So we almost have to do this by amending the model code. Otherwise, we've got conflicts all over the place, and somebody's going to figure out later which one controls, either by being more or less restrictive. So that's why we kind of took the tact of taking the intent of the bill, turning it into code language, and then ordering in the bill would order the Building Code Review Board to amend the code to say thus and such. So that's where we are on that. So if you'd like to go through our points of change,
Yes.
we can do that.
Wait.
I,
Chair,
Yes.
I'm trying to take a few minutes, but we need somebody to take that.
Thank you. I meant to deal with that earlier.
Here,
My name's Michael Hagan. I'm with Michael Hagan, Hagan.
and you're with APL,
Correct.
building,
New Hampshire Building Officials Association. If it helps, I can provide you with a copy of my testimony as well.
yeah, that,
okay.
Yes.
All right, so I think the biggest change, at least from my perspective, that's being proposed is that the building official would retain the right to essentially veto the party that's proposed. The bill sort of says the developer, the owner, shows up with their third party and basically says, here's who we're going to use. We're proposing that the whole premise of permits, inspections, and everything else is a check and balance. If everybody was going to meet the code regardless, you wouldn't need all of this infrastructure. But this should not be an arbitrary veto. If a building official is not convinced that someone is qualified, they need to provide that reason in writing. It can't be, well, I have one consultant that does all the work in my town. No, no, no. This is simply, somebody shows up with their brother-in-law from Georgia, prove that they know what they're doing on a project of the type that's under consideration, and that's all spelled out in more detail in the proposed language. So that's one big shift, is to simply give the building official, with the constraint that it's got to be a reason, the ability to say, no, this person is not qualified to do this work.
If I could add to that? if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Yeah.
So the city of Keene currently has a approved third-party list for plan review. We've also used third-party inspectors for multiples of projects where we knew that it would bog down our system and not benefit our community by these large projects, 500,000 square foot projects, even subdivisions. This bill helps to speed that up and put it into statute, which is great. There's only a few municipalities that take advantage of that right now and that have a practice for this, to allow all communities and have a framework for this to work off of. Is a great idea. We've utilized it on a number of projects and it's been very successful.
Okay, number 2 on the list was, we pretty much talked about it, sewing this thing together into code language, which is necessary to eliminate the conflicts. We redefine business days, which sounds like a squirrely idea, but in fact, there are a number of smaller towns where the building official and that office is only open X number of days a week. They're not on a 5-day schedule. So we simply proposed that be changed to days that the office is typically open when there are deadlines imposed. Anyway, that's what we did, and we can talk about it if necessary. We clarified the route for what I'll call complaints coming out of the audits. So we maintain the audit stuff that's in the bill, but then straightened out, I think, that we have 3 different types of people doing this work: engineers, architects, and certified building officials. That's pretty much consistent with the bill. Engineers and architects in 2 different statutes have their own disciplinary route to the Engineering and Architectural Licensing Board. So complaints from the building official saying they didn't do the job properly need to go to the same board that any other complaint on that individual would go to under their license. We did maintain what I think the bill was trying to get at, where the Building Code Review Board would hear complaints about certified building officials, because that system, which is run by the publishers of the code, has no disciplinary or enforcement kind of process. So it just brings it into the state government at a level where there's somebody there to hear a complaint. And the ability for a building inspector to say, you messed up, you're out of here, that's maintained in the bill for that municipality.
I have a quick question.
Sir, yeah.
The engineers and the architects boards are all under the OPLC at this point, is that correct? Office of
They're
Provisional
the
License.
umbrella organization, but
yeah.
they're still separate boards.
They're separate
yeah.
boards, right?
Right, right. And that's been well established for many years.
No, I know that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to be,
Yep. This one, people will have different opinions on. So the bill basically said that when I show up with my project, I essentially negotiate with the municipality to reduce the fees by what they're saving. And there was discussion on the people who put this together. City of Keene uses percentages. They just say, if you're going to do the document reviews, 40%. If you're going to do inspections, another 40%, maintaining 20% for the municipality. Eliminates the discussions. Other municipalities, those percentages may not work, and it may be more desirable to go back to what's in the bill and just say, work it out on every project. So that's, I don't have a dog in that fight, but we did propose the percentages just to put the idea in front of you. And then lastly, we suggest that this bill, if it goes the way we hope, where you're ordering the BCRB to amend the code to do all the stuff, just make the bill effective upon passage, because all that's going to do is set us in motion to do that amendment. It won't hurt anybody or help anybody out in the field until we get done with that anyway. So no real reason to delay it for 60 days.
right.
Those are the highlights. There were some other editorial kinds of changes, to make things fit together in the document that you've seen.
Do we have any Mr. Representative Aaron?
Hi, I do have a question. On smaller municipalities where there is no building official, how would this work?
So the way the statute works now, there's a fence, and I live in the town of New London, which does not enforce the state building code. And I'll try and fit Troy into this, because I think they're using a section in the statute that I'm not totally familiar with. But basically, the town does not enforce the state code. The state code still applies. The contractor is still responsible for complying with it. And the enforcement is that for other than 1 and 2 family dwellings, the selectmen may, and the town of New London has decided to, request of the state fire marshal that they act as the building inspector. So that's one route, is they call up the state fire marshal, who does not have to accept that work, but they can, and they have, for New London and a handful of other towns that don't enforce the building code. There is a statute that allows a municipality to sort of contract out the operation, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not clear how that statute all fits together. I believe that's what Troy is doing. But many towns, it's just, we're not doing the building code, don't call us, you've got to meet it, it's still statutory to meet the code, but there's no permits or review function.
Okay, I think that's how Ackworth is.
sure
I live
it
in
is.
Ackworth.
It's the smaller towns.
Yeah,
right?
and we have one admin in the office. She's not going to be working on all this stuff.
225 or so municipalities in New Hampshire. The last count, Scott, I think was 141 that enforce the code, the building code. Now, the others are, a handful of people, so the majority of the population is covered, of course. But
Thank you.
Representative Hicks, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. So what I think I heard was the bill is necessary as a framework. But this bill, already this can happen in the state of New Hampshire, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble
So
hearing.
this bill, I thought I heard, and I forgot your name, I'm sorry.
Michael.
Michael, I thought I heard you say that this bill is good, it's necessary as a framework for people to use, but it's not necessary, is it, in the state of New Hampshire? Can't this already happen?
The big difference between this bill and the traditional way of using third parties is that most all of the time, the third parties are at the call of the municipality. This allows the owner, and it's really the intent of the bill, allows the owner to come in and say, I'm going to use a third party.
Anybody else have questions? Right. And Representative Aaron? Oh,
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say that, yesterday I spent some time going through this bill sort of line by line, and it was interesting to get an explanation of why language needed to change for legality reasons. So I thought that, Phil actually helped me understand what his proposals were. So, thank you.
anything else? Do you have a copy of your proposal we can add to the?
Of the proposed,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a printout of what I distributed by email, sure.
Okay. Well, I got a pile of paper. I want to add it to my pile of paper.
Okay,
Sure. Copy right here.
all right.
Thanks. Thank you. Anybody else have questions for these two gentlemen? Thank you very much. And unless you guys had something else you wanted to say? Okay.
We appreciate the opportunity to work with this committee on potentially making those adjustments. It will, if those adjustments are implemented into this bill, I think you're going to get the intent that you want out of it. It really, we worked very hard to incorporate everything that would make a smooth transition and make it workable through the state of New Hampshire.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to testify? Matt?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Matt Mayberry, CEO of the New Hampshire Home Builders Association, and we agree with the vast majority of what the building officials brought forward because we do have to integrate that into the building code and that process. We'll go with the intent. I think everyone heard loud and clear what the intent was.
Yep.
Two things one that I like and one not so much. One, I very much like, and if you could please keep in the for cause on denying a licensed professional to do that, because again, we get back into that personality thing or that one person. So please keep that for cause. I do have a challenge on the clarifying business days, because while sitting there, from memory, and I verified it, the town of Madbury, for instance, they're open Tuesday, 12 to 7, then Wednesday and Thursday, 8 to 1. So if there's a 30-day review window in there, that's 10 weeks. If we go on just when they're open. There should be some compromise between a town's convenience and a developer's convenience. 10 weeks to let 30 days go by is a very long time. So I would leave it to the chairman of the subcommittee to find a happy middle ground, but that one I have a little challenge with. Everything else we're good with.
Actually, I had, when we were talking earlier, hearing testimony earlier, and they referenced, we were thinking about Ackworth, and again, in the case of the town of Troy, we don't have a building official ever. There are no office hours.
Yeah.
So your time frame could be infinity if you use the time that they're there. So I think a finite number of days from the date of application would be easiest. What that is, would take opinions on, but I'm concerned about the business days. Sort of, it could be 10 days in Manchester, and it could be 10 months in Madbury. So-
Exactly. Yes, please. But other than that, we're good with the language and their amendments and
Yeah.
things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that the timeframes we're talking about are simply 10 days to issue the permit originally after construction document review and 5 days as proposed in here to issue the certificate of occupancy. The 10 days at least spans two
Business weeks.
chronological weeks, business weeks. And anybody that's open a day or two a week is going to get in within that. The 5 days, I guess you run the risk that, somebody calls in sick or there's a snowstorm and, the system falls apart. So maybe just moving both of those to the 10 days or something to that effect. I understand what Mr. Mayberry's saying.
Well, and so that takes me to, and many times, when everything works right, it's not a problem. It's when something doesn't work right or somebody gets mad, then you wind up with lawsuits or threatened lawsuits. And the number of times I've seen that occur in my business experience over business days, in the town of Troy, we take Patriots Day off.
Right.
But that's not really a state holiday, so would we have counted yesterday or not counted yesterday? I would be much happier with calendar days. Even if it's 14 calendar days and 7 calendar days, you can't argue with calendar days.
Yeah.
So that would be,
I do think probably spanning more than 1 week, though, people go on vacation or whatever, and it gives
Sure.
the town time to recoup and find somebody in the next town who can service it or
Sure.
whatever.
so we just need to agree on that number.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Would anyone else like to address the subcommittee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, distinguished representatives. My name is Tim Metivier, Metivier. I'm here representing the New Hampshire Seacoast Code Officials Association, which I am president of. I've been president of that association for a few years, and prior to being the building official in the city of Portsmouth, I was the director and chief official for the city of Somersworth for 15 years. So I've been around for this items of these trying to have these changes proposed, and do you use a third-party reviewer most of my career. And in that career, I've leaned on the need for third-party reviews multiple times, especially with certain items that we don't have the ability. I'm not aware of any code official or municipality have the ability to do certain types of those inspections, concrete, compaction, rebar, welding, and so forth. Those are always leaned on with third-party inspections. And we've relied on that fairly regularly and effectively through the codes that already existed. When Senate Bill 188 first came out in the Senate, we were opposed to it. It was unnecessary. And it did pass through the Senate and it now sits before you in this committee. In lieu of that, not that it did pass, and then, okay, we make a decision, well, how can we at least make it compatible and still work within the boundaries that we all seem to want to be in? And the New Hampshire Code Officials, Seacoast Code Officials Association support the changes that the NHBOA have now presented before you. So I sit here in support of those changes. If initially in the Senate bill, we were just opposed to 188, but if it's going to go this far, let's make it at least work well. And so this Senate bill and the changes that NHBOA have presented to you are acceptable to the New Hampshire Seacoast Code Officials Association. So I'm here to at least chapter for them.
Representative Hicks?
Thank you. Could you help me understand how payment is made if you use a third party in the inspection process, and then how this would impact municipalities sort of charging for any of those inspections, whether it be sort of a pass-through payment or however it would work?
Certainly. When the municipality that I've worked for and work for now, if they were to receive a building permit application, there would be no credit to that application based on their work. The scope and size of the job would then be a decision to be made whether certain third-party inspectors would be needed. We're not going to ask for a third-party inspector and a compaction test and slump tests and welding for a single or two-family home. More than likely not for multiple-story apartment buildings if they're of a certain size. But there comes a point where our expertise says that this is beyond our ability, beyond our scope. You're going to have to hire a third-party inspector that you submit to us with it. And it's already in the code to have that happen. And we lean on that when it's needed. So there is no credit back to the developer for doing that. And I've not, in my career, heard any balking at that. They've all expect that.
Mr. Hagan?
Let me add to that. I think to help clarify maybe the question that was asked of Representative Hicks. Keene does offer right off the bat a 40% fee discount. So when they submit the building permit application, will automatically be reduced. And as written in these amendments, if you choose to use a third-party plan reviewer or inspector, which you could do one or either, you would receive a 40% discount for the plan review and a 40% discount for a third-party inspector. That's not outside of Chapter 17 that my colleague here is speaking about, but those are individual inspections. But as part of this bill, it's specifically written into this language that was presented to you that you would receive that 40% for plan review, 40% for inspections, and 20% would be retained for administrative purposes, for the auditing, for the processing of the permit, administrative. So your administrative municipalities can still operate if you're issuing permits.
Representative Aaron?
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, this 40% discount, you're assuming that the building permit fees already include the inspections fees in it? And so because they're hiring a third party, you're going to give them a break on that because they're going to pay for it anyway.
Sure.
Is that it?
Little different than that. So I can kind of explain fees. A lot of
Before you answer, let me just throw the other curve that goes to that.
Sure.
So in the case of the town of Troy,
Yep.
where anyone building pays for their own inspections, we don't reduce our fees. You pay us our building permit fee for processing or whatever, and then we bill the billing, you pay the inspector 100% of the inspector's fee, but there's no discount from our $350 building permit fee. And we'd like certainly.
And currently, right now, there's nothing in statute that talks about how municipalities charge fees. I can only speak for Keene, my 24 years experience there. We charge a flat fee for residential, and we charge a flat fee for commercial. And then we offer off of that, so that includes your administrative costs, your inspection costs, so there's no additional fees for inspections, and for plan review costs, right? So we base that based on our model. There are other municipalities that charge separately for plan review, charge separately for a permit for plumbing, permit for electrical. They count all the fixtures. Each municipality sets up their own process, right? So if your administrative fee is that flat $350, you can call that the administrative portion of the process.
Got it.
So you would just say that 20% of that administrative fee is the administrative fee. That because you don't charge for inspections or plan review.
Right.
You take that out of the mix completely. So it costs you $350, keep it at that, call it the administrative portion of the fee.
Right. So what I was getting at
Sure.
was if your fee schedule includes inspections, then you have to give them a break because they're hiring their own. If it doesn't, no break.
That was our understanding of the intent of the bill, and it works well in Keene. Typically, it saves money in a lot of ways. It speeds up the process for the plan review. They come in, they submit, we verify the information from the third-party reviewer. They get their permit next day. after the day after the plan review is completed by the third party, and we issue the permit the next day after verification, usually within 24 hours. So, and then we discount that 40% of the work we didn't do as a municipality. So,
Seems reasonable. Mr. Hicks?
I just want to point out that the example that Keene is presenting is true for Keene. It's maybe true for others, but each municipality has their own unique system, their own unique method, which has been vetted out for however long that municipality has been working on it. So it's a fairly large variable there, but
So if I could actually speak to a letter from Thomas Bell, the city manager in Concord. He says this bill places a requirement on municipalities to review the qualifications of third parties, create and implement an undefined audit and disciplinary program, provide software systems or workforce to share documents, and conduct expedited reviews of these third-party inspection reports and plan submissions. The bill appears to contemplate cost savings as a result of these changes. However, the legislation does not create efficiencies in these reviews, but rather shifts the type of work required by the municipality from inspection to document review to expedited regulatory administrative oversight of this third-party program. And he goes on. Any comment on that?
I think we've covered that with that administrative cost, retaining that administrative cost to provide those services. Now, if this bill was to go in place, like any bill that goes in place, municipalities have to adapt to the changes in law. So the communities would have to look at the way that they're charging for permit fees and make those changes appropriately in their fee schedule to capture it appropriately. So if you're not providing these services, you don't charge for them. So you may have to manipulate or change through the process your fee schedule in order to meet these requirements, to meet this bill requirement. Otherwise, it's the way it was written originally, it would have been a negotiation between the builder and the town. Like, what is the administrative cost? And it didn't say that it didn't give a breakdown at all. So it was very difficult we had a hard time, like, how are we going to retain,
It
or
would
how
have
do you
driven everybody
justify it?
crazy. Every building permit would be a negotiation.
potentially.
Yeah, and how much time does it take to negotiate? You know,
Right.
the back and forth, vacations, we just talk about business days, they're only open 3 hours. I don't know if the administrator wants to be taking care of that, so this
Probably
locks
not.
it in. You make a fee schedule that works, and you cement it.
Mr. Mativier, you agree with that, or you have anything else you'd like to say?
I agree with the vast majority of it. I think just keep in mind that, that is, the fee schedules are very unique to all of us. In the city of Portsmouth, we have, quite a large staff with zoning involved. There's almost 13 of us that do plan review and inspections, and we don't lean on too many third-party reviewers with the exception of the steel and concrete and earth. Beyond that, we do all of it ourselves. Most of that was true for the years that I was in the city of Somersworth as well. The expertise that they hired there was be able to really handle most of that, with the exception of those aforementioned items when it came to commercial projects. So those fees we consumed and utilized were not credited back in any form in the two municipalities that I have experience in. In the other municipalities that are small, such as the ones that you folks live in, I can understand that almost always a third-party inspector would be necessary for any type of commercial project. It'd beyond the scope of even a fire chief to really absorb. So that was why in the Seacoast chapter supported what the NHBOA submitted as a revision. Initially, like I stated, that we were just against it. We thought that the towns that work around us seemed to be running well already. There was provisions for hiring inspectors, and we understand that that's not true everywhere. So this bill with these changes would accommodate, I think, most of the state.
I'm always, you have 13 people in your department, and the town of Troy only has 12 employees, including the police and the transfer station.
We have about 7 or 8 multi-story projects going on right now, in excess of 5 stories. So we're a busy department. When I left Somersworth, I thought that, oh, wow, I'm only going to have to do one hat now,
Yeah.
because I don't have to wear all the ones I had to. And now I'm more busy than ever, but I only wear the one hat. So
It's a bigger hat.
rightly said.
Thank you very much. Did anyone else have any other comments for the committee? Come on up. That's fine.
Good morning. I'm Alex Katrubis. I'm here to represent the Associated General Contractors of New Hampshire. So we represent commercial builders. We did support this legislation. I apologize, I couldn't make it to the public hearing because I had a conflict. But we did support it as it came over from the Senate because like the home builders, the commercial contractors face a lot of the same challenges that this bill is seeking to address. The chairman of the Building Code Review Committee was kind enough to email me over the amendment. I just had a chance to look at it in the back. And I do want to thank the building officials for working with the chairman and in our industries, both home builders and commercial, to try to solve this issue rather than to just say, no, let's ITL the bill. So on just a cursory review of the amendment, we like where this is heading. We appreciate the opportunity to try to do something new here because there's clearly a challenge between development and local government, and this could be a third way to try to bring some innovation and new ways of doing business. So I'm pleased to report that it seems like everyone's in agreement. Home builders, commercial contractors, and the folks that you've heard from this morning from local government. So I would urge you to adopt the amendment and let's try to work together to solve some of the challenges that this bill, the reason for this bill being brought forward. So appreciate the opportunity, and it's nice to see the spirit of compromise between the two sides here and work together to try to do something positive.
Thank you. Does anybody?
Sure, of course. My first name is Alex. My last name is Koutroubas. AGC of New Hampshire, Associated General Contractors of New Hampshire. Commercial contractors. You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other? Thank you. All right. Anyone else want to address the subcommittee? If that's the case, then lady and gentlemen, how would we like to proceed? Anybody want to propose an amendment? Do we want to adopt the? Yes.
We can talk about what are the main bullet points that we want to address. That is, number one, how the third-party inspectors are chosen. Who keeps the list? You don't want your brother-in-law. You want to make sure that you're vetting the proper people.
But your brother-in-law might be okay if he's actually an architect or an engineer.
It's true. And is the municipality going to pick them? Is the
I think-
developer going to pick?
I
Do we
think-
give them the option?
As-
Those are the kind of things.
As
we
I
wanna talk
understand the
about.
bill, both as with these proposed amendments or as originally written, the intent is for the developer to be able to pick the third party and bring it to the city or town and say, I've picked XYZ Engineering and they're going to be my third party. And the city or town says, yeah, they're good, no, they're not, but they have to have a consequential reason. They can't just say, he scratched my car at Walmart, you can't hire him. It's got to be.
Right, I heard that in the
Yeah.
testimony, that you gotta have a cause for
Right.
not, for
So that's-
rejecting them.
That's one of the bill, amendments proposed by the code enforcement people.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think in the amendment here, in 104-A.2 and 104-A.2.1, they sort of talk about that, and if somebody's not approved, how it has to be stated in writing.
Right.
And then they talk about the independence that the third-party inspector needs. So, do you have this?
Yes, I
Oh,
do.
okay. I was just making sure. It's on
I have the
page.
short version and
And
the
you
long
can, you can
version.
correct me on this, but it's page 6 and 7 of the one. One's in red and one's in purple, if that helps. So they need to be objective and competent.
Right. The objective part could be a problem if it's your brother-in-law.
That could be a problem if it's your brother-in-law. True, true.
Mr. Hicks?
I was just thinking maybe we should go through the list of concerns that the municipal association has
Okay.
here on whatever page this is, the last page. So the loss, so first would be the loss of fees, which I think they covered, right? Additional staff time. I think that was addressed in so much as they can charge additionally for it if they choose,
Yep.
from what I heard. And then legal costs associated, well, I think there's always a potential of lawsuits, so I'm not really as concerned about that. So that's what the municipal association's concerns were, which I think most of them were addressed.
I think they were, yes. Representative Kerwin, did you have something else?
Nope, I was just looking for the piece of paper.
No?
A lot of paper.
So, now that we've got that out of the way, does somebody want to make a motion on what to adopt? Do we want to go through this a line at a time? Okay. So we're going to go through the bill itself,
Representative.
or you
Peck.
want to go through the proposed amendments? Okay, same thing.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Yesterday I had called Phil to try to do exactly that because this is all new language to me, and
Sure.
he was very good. So I was wondering, sort of explaining like every line of the bill. So I don't know if could we ask him up to help us go through it, or do we want to
Yeah.
go through it on our
that's
own?
fine. I
Okay,
think that's
I just
probably-
wanted to throw that
Come
on
on,
there.
Phil.
Sorry, Phil, to throw you back on the.
What?
No, but it was very helpful for me to understand every line going through. So
All right. So, starting at the top, I don't think we need to go through the bill number analysis, bill allows, we know that.
There is one thought on that, and that would be that whether this makes more sense as a session bill, or does it need to be written into 155A with all of the detailed language? Just a question.
I think it should, personally, and it's obviously up to what everybody decides, but I think it should remain a session bill. I think we should do this sooner rather than later if we're gonna
It
do
would
it.
save having to update the bill every time we update to a new model code and so forth, right? Representative Alexander's heard this speech on a couple of other things. So.
Well, I haven't heard it yet, so I think it needs to be done, and it should be done sooner rather than later. So.
Get to the same endpoint.
Enact, we don't need that. So, new section 3. Amend RSA 55A by inserting after section 7 the following new sections. 155A7. You want to go through those? How do you want to, am I in the right place? Yeah, you said you want to go through it a section at a time, so I'm in section 1. Applicable codes.
Yeah, page 3.
Page 3.
Yeah.
The changes here, paragraph A, except as referenced by the state building code. Is that clear? We have questions on that?
No, the definitions look okay.
Why don't we try and do this and go to the first place somebody has a concern? Does anybody have questions about paragraph B, audit?
No.
Okay. Paragraph C, approved agency versus private provider. Authorized as permitted by this section. Construction document versus plan. All those make super good sense to me because
That just brings it into terminology that the code uses and that the industry uses.
Right.
Plans is not the term that's used anymore.
right. And private provider, license, So we're good with those changes. Then we get down to the bottom, engineers, architects, or certified building officials.
We're specifying that as ICC certified.
Oh,
building.
that's a ICC, got it,
Yeah.
okay. Everybody good with that? Okay, paragraph D. Approved agency services means the review of construction documents and inspection services be determined to determine compliance with applicable codes, each as required by the state building code. Questions there?
No.
Okay. And then we go to E as amended, construction documents, written, graphic, pictorial documents prepared or assembled for describing the design, location, and physical characteristics of the elements of a project necessary for obtaining a building permit. Construction documents do not include applications or documents generated for zoning or planning approvals.
That's
That's
fine.
good?
Yep.
Okay, section F, building inspection, that's just, there's no changes to the paragraph, it's just separating that out as its own paragraph. Good. G, building permit or permit means official document or certification issued by the building official that authorizes performance of a specific activity. Good with that?
Yep.
H, building official, the officer or other designated authority charged with the administration and enforcement of this code, or duly authorized representative. Good with that?
Yep, and it
So,
defines
I would-
ICC, so
Yeah.
that's fine. Yep.
And then, I would suspect in a town like Troy or Ackworth, it would be the Board of Selectmen. Or the or fire chief.
Probably the fire chief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roman
We-
numeral,
In Ackworth, we have like a part-time building inspector
Well-
that we share with Lemster, but.
yeah,
uh, Mhm.
yeah, that's, we kind of have that too, but it's
Mhm.
not. So we, Roman numeral 2, under paragraph H, the owner or owner's authorized agent. So if the owner is contracting with an architect to design this thing, they could interface, correct?
The bill used a different set of legal words for owner, fee owner, and some of that. Owner or owner's authorized agent is the term that the codes use throughout.
Okay,
So
so
that's
we're,
all, it's just
we're
terminology.
just
Yeah.
making the terminology consistent.
I had a question when I was reading this. What's a fee owner as
Oh.
opposed to the owner?
Right. Now we know. Permitted by this section. Everybody good with Roman numeral 2?
Yes.
Roman numeral 3, approved agencies. The only change, and ICC certified building officials.
Yep.
No
I-
changes.
I believe-
Good question?
Oh, I just believe on line 30, instead of private providers, you wanted to write approved agencies. That was just a missed,
Right,
if
on-
I'm
on-
correct.
Line 28.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead.
Oh,
I got ahead of you by 2 lines. I'm sorry.
oh. So you're good on Roman numeral 3, line 28? Okay.
Which copy are you looking at? Because my Roman numeral 3 is on line 8 of page 4.
Yeah, we're looking at
Oh,
the amended one.
Yeah. You have the one that has all the stuff crossed out, and yeah,
Yeah.
so that's I have that one also, but this one's easier to read.
well, we're all in the same place, even if we're not on the same
Yes.
line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that.
Okay. I don't see any changes to Roman numeral 4.
There's one editorial change. We missed
On
the
4?
private provider there. That should be approved agencies.
Okay. No, that's okay. And Roman numeral 5, we have approved agencies again. Construction documents where permitted by the municipality and for all reports, semicolon, and other documents required for compliance with this section. Taking
So-
out building code.
Many municipalities will accept, call them drawings, large format things in electronic forms. If you don't, though, it's a pretty heavy lift to get to that point, because you still need to plot them out occasionally, and there's a bunch of stuff that goes with that. So we simply said, if the municipality is doing it that way, submit it that way, and everybody can do emails for reports and so forth, so that's
Right.
not a problem.
Roman numeral 6. Again, we've changed private provider to approved agency. That's the only change in that paragraph. And then we have eliminated section 4 in all its glory. And coming down to a new section 6, which states, State Building Code Amendment. The State Building Code Review Board shall amend the International Building Code 2021, the International Existing Building Code 2021, the International Plumbing Code 2021, the International Mechanical Code 2021, the International Energy Conservation Code 2018, the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code 2021, and the International Residential Code 2021 as published by the International Code Council, Inc., Section 202, approved agency, and add Section 104A to read as follows. The National Electrical Code 2020 shall be amended in a similar manner.
If I might explain that, and we have a suggested change to our suggested change. Good, bad, or otherwise, there's 8 model codes that go into the state code, which is the list here.
Yep.
What we'd like to do is to put this stuff in the International Building Code, all of the words, and then in the other 7 codes, simply give them one line that says, permits pulled under this code are authorized to use the provisions of the International Building Code, or something to that effect. And with your permission, we could provide the specific words for that. The second part of this is the reason the National Electric Code is called out separately is it does not have an administration chapter. It just sort of dives into the meat of how you hook up a wire.
Yeah.
So we need to find a place in there. It's not an International Code Council code. It's published by somebody else. So we'll need to work on the words, which we can provide you in the next day or two,
Representative
if
Hicks.
that's all right.
Yeah, so thank you. My question would be, is that an attempt to evergreen this, meaning
I'm sorry?
to evergreen this in a term used to what are the latest years or the updates of these different codes? Because if we're putting 2021, 2018 in here and it changes, then you have to refer back to that or the bill as a change, right?
So the way I think this will play out is that this will get us an amendment to the codes that are in effect today. If things go according to plan, next July, July of 26, we'll move to new editions of some or all of the codes that they're under review now. This turns into an amendment to the state building code along with 100+ other amendments we have. And then this would get carried over by the BCRB to the next edition of the code. Now, nothing we do in terms of implementing codes goes into effect without ratification by the legislature. So let's say, just as a contingency, we said, well, we don't really like this stuff. We're not going to carry that amendment over. We will be sitting in a room at the legislature with our head on a platter, I suspect. But the legislature would have the ability to catch that before anything went back into law. So that's why the session bill would get this thing going quicker than the code cycle update. But then it would sit on the shelf and it would go into an amendment process where you all or others would get to see if that amendment ever disappeared over time.
That makes sense.
The other advantage is undoubtedly with this kind of detail, there's something that'll need to be tweaked a little bit as time goes on, and it just streamlines the ability to do that a little bit, again, with the legislature's approval.
Well, if they didn't keep changing the code, there'd be nothing to run classes on, and the guys who publish the books would never have to, you put them out of business.
Ah, yes. A topic for another day.
Yeah. All right, so we're good with that. I assume. Moving forward? So,
You want to leave the various years.
yes, yes, for all those good reasons. Section
If I could provide some revised wording for that in the next day or two.
That would be fine.
That's all right? Yeah.
Yep. Section 202, definitions. Approved agency, an established and recognized agency or individual that is regularly engaged in reviewing construction documents, conducting tests, furnishing inspection services, or furnishing product certification where such agency has been approved by the building official.
So this is a definition that's in the code already. It's used for other purposes, as the inspector from Portsmouth pointed out, concrete slump tests and things like that. What we've done here is to try to take that set of terminology, draw it into this section, and make it more robust. But the definition needed to be amended to include reviewing construction documents, because that's not what it's used for today. It's used for different types of inspections, but not document review. So
Okay.
that's all, that's the only change from the existing code definition.
Questions on that? Section 104A, use of approved agencies for construction document review and inspection of the work. We got a whole big section here. Notwithstanding any law, rule, or regulation, at the discretion of the permit applicant, approved agencies shall be permitted to perform reviews of construction documents and/or inspection of the work, each as required by this code. 104A11 application. The provision of this section shall address permits where the owner or owner's authorized agent chooses to utilize the services of an approved agency for the services identified in this section, but shall not be interpreted to restrict any other authorization for the building official to obtain or require services of an approved agency. Business days. For the purpose of this section, a business day refers to any day the building official's office is typically open. This is where we're talking
Right,
about.
and I hear what you're saying about using calendar days, which will show up a couple of different places later on.
Right. Indemnification, there's no change there. Payments, the owner of the, or the owner's authorized agent shall contract with make payment directly to the approved agency. We talked about that.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Representative Kerwin, did you want to bring in the comments from the structural engineers as we go through this, or? Because they had a comment on the indemnification.
I have it here. I'm looking for it. I think it's number 4. So the structural engineers, private providers shall be granted the same liability limitations as public building officials. It is our experience that it would be beyond the standard of care for an engineer to certify the construction is compliant with building codes, and that professional liability insurance will not cover that certification. Therefore, we expect that engineers will not be interested in providing this service if they are exposed to excessive liability. Well, I'd say it's a business decision on their part between themselves and the person contracting with them. Wouldn't,
If I could take off my code hat and put on my licensed engineering
Sure.
hat. I would never sign this section, and I've done third-party reviews for many years. This has the effect of holding engineers to a higher standard than the building official themselves are held to, who have all kinds of protection as governmental employees.
sure.
We don't get any of that as a contractor. Furthermore, if you look at how this plays out, it can require the contractor, the engineer, to defend the government for an error that they made. I can't be insured for that. It leaves me completely on the hook. So I'm one of those people who doesn't like to bring a problem without a solution, but I don't have a solution for this one. I agree with the structural engineers. It's going to eliminate almost everybody that wants to do this work.
Well, then you'd be back to having the city or town do it.
Right.
And that would be my take on it. And if the town, city or town hired the engineer to work under their umbrella, then that would be a solution there. rather than as a third party.
Yeah, I don't believe, I've done work,
Sure.
contracted that way, and it's my understanding that that governmental protection does not flow through to a contractor at all.
Is that but we recognize that there's a potential problem. If we do nothing, where does that leave us?
Again, this wasn't my issue.
No, no,
As
I recognize that.
apologize, I don't have a solution.
I
for
think,
it.
I think that's something that the engineer and so the third party engineer is the question in this case, and they're potentially exposed to infinite liability or.
Architects are in the same boat.
Right.
It's similar.
So whatever they have for liability now isn't really going to change. This is a situation that exists right now. Is that not correct?
We don't even enter into the term inspection.
Mhm.
Inspection means you're basically saying, I've watched what that person did.
And
I
it's good.
know what it's done. Unfortunately or fortunately, the building code uses it in a little bit of a different flavor than the rest of the construction industry.
Well, I think
So-
my own take is that that may be a flaw in the concept behind the bill that'll have to be worked out in the future. But if you can't find architects and engineers that want to do these third-party inspections,
Right.
then that's a different issue.
You're absolutely right. If there's a problem with this, it will tend to reduce the pool of people who want to do the work.
And so you're back
So-
to the point of beginning. You're back exactly where we are now.
Somebody come back next year and come
Right.
up with better language.
But, all right, well, we had that conversation. Moving on. Anybody want to talk about that beyond this?
I think we have to solve the problem to some degree, because
Well, do we
if you're
want
not
to,
gonna find anyone to do the work, what's the point of doing this whole bill?
well, we don't know that we aren't.
Mm.
We don't know if we are, we don't know if we aren't. Do we want to try and I think there's a bigger problem with trying to limit the third party to the liability of the building, the hold harmless, unless we want to add into 104A11 indemnification, try and figure out a way to put the third party inspectors in that paragraph. That would work.
Mm-hmm.
Just another suggestion would be to give the structural engineers and perhaps some of the entities behind me a few days to work on some language.
That's not about, you want to do that? Yeah,
Yep.
we would, I think that's
I'm
probably
surrounded by attorneys behind me here,
Yeah.
so that's probably a good thing.
or a bad thing. So then on this paragraph on indemnification, we're going to look for feedback from the interested parties to try and sort out that indemnification problem. Right? We all agree on that? We talked about I think we did approved agency and payment, correct?
This is where, and again, we might want to fiddle with the language. If the building official does not approve a proposed agency, the reason shall be stated in writing.
Right, we agreed with that,
Yep, okay.
correct? Independence, an approved agency shall be objective, competent, independent from the contractor responsible for work being inspected. The agency shall disclose to the building official possible conflicts of interest so that the objectivity, this is the brother-in-law issue,
This is right out of the code.
right? Individuals shall perform services only within the scope of their competence, where applicable, license or certification, right? Any questions on that? Good. Equipment, an approved agency shall have adequate equipment to perform required tests. The equipment shall be periodically calibrated. I'm going to just go through these and then stop me where somebody has a question, okay? Personnel, an approved agency shall employ or contract with experienced personnel educated in conducting, supervising, and evaluating construction document reviews and inspection of the work. We have a new number for the paragraph on insurance, 104A2, and then at the end of the existing paragraph, we've added a certificate of insurance indicating the above shall be provided to the building official before services under this section is started, and such certificate shall require notification to the building official 14 days prior to any cancellation or changes to the policy. New section, contract information. The approved agency.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think that section is started, should be section are started. Services are started.
Before services under this section are started, you're correct. All right, that's a good one. My 8th grade
Oh,
English
it's still
teacher
one
would
of
be
those
very
gotta be-
proud of both of us.
Getting late at night at that
Yep.
point, so.
This requirement for the certificate of insurance, I mean, usually an insurance company will offer some sort of standard
Yeah,
certificate,
it's
right?
a, yes.
Does this section allow for that kind of standard certificate, or is it
That-
asking for something
Well, no,
weird that,
that's what I'm reading it to require on
It's a
most,
standard thing.
yeah, most
Yeah.
contractors, when
Okay.
you, when I hire a contractor, I ask them for a certificate of insurance. They
Correct.
call their insurance agent, they email it over. I'm sure if you've got, if you have a building permit in the bigger city, they're gonna wanna see the insurance certificates on the guys doing the job.
right,
good
I'm
job.
just asking that whether what we're asking for in the black section here is not something unusual. It's
No.
a standard
This is so common,
so that the
right,
person asking for the certificate doesn't have to jump through hoops
Right.
to get it.
right. No, it should take
That's
10
my
minutes.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It won't be the first one they've issued this week. Yeah. All right, where was I? Contact information, is got its own section here, 104A25. Approved agency shall provide complete contact information for each individual performing services. That certainly seems to make sense.
We don't need to break out phone, email,
No.
address. That's enough.
104A3, which is a new number, scope of approved agency services. Construction document reviews. The approved agency shall examine the construction documents, including deferred or amended documents as described in section 107.3. Upon determining compliance, the approved agency shall prepare an affidavit or affidavit certifying that the documents were reviewed pursuant to this section and that to the best of the knowledge, information, belief of the reviewer, the documents comply with New Hampshire State Building Code and any applicable municipal amendments. And my thing, sometimes people question the idea of the certification of these things. If somebody's gonna lie, they're gonna lie. And it's all gonna come out on the backside anyway, so.
This actually reduced the standard from the bill, which just said, I certify everything's okay.
Right. Inspection of the work. The approved agency shall perform inspections as set forth in section 110. Upon completion of all inspections, the approved agency shall submit to the regulatory authority an affidavit summarizing the inspections performed in accordance with the approved construction documents, the New Hampshire State Building Code, any applicable municipal amendments. The approved agency and affidavit shall be subject to RSA 676:13. Everybody
That's
good
out of
there?
the bill.
I'm sorry?
That's right out of the bill.
Right. I'm just reading changes. 104A4, municipal responsibilities, permit fees. This was where approved agency is used for the review of all construction documents in lieu of building officials' review, permit fees will be reduced by 40%. Where an approved agency is used for all inspections required under section 110, permit fees shall be reduced by 40%. Where both functions are performed, permit fees shall be reduced by 80%. Approved agency access to records. This is a new heading, no change from the prior bill. That's section 104A42. is now broken out separately. Sections A and B are not changes. 104A4.3, issuance of permit. We have no more than 10 business days after receipt of a construction document affidavit. I would like to change that to 14 calendar days. We
Okay.
good with that?
Yeah, is okay with it?
And then issuance of certificate of occupancy, no more than 10 business days, 10 calendar days. That gets you over if you had a Monday holiday and the 4th of July and something,
So
we're gonna go
wanna
with-
make it 10 calendar?
10 calendar days.
Which line are you on?
I'm down on line 30, 104A3, issuance of certificate of
Oh,
occupancy.
gotcha, okay.
Okay.
And that was 10?
That was 10 calendar days. And then, yes, sir. Yes.
To avoid confusion, both were 14, we're good with that. Just, because like,
Well, I'm thinking about the builder. I don't want to be held up by Mr. Hagan saying, I'm busy.
Assuming they passed all the inspections.
Assuming they passed all the inspections.
of course we would, but I didn't want someone to be able to say, which one's 10, which one's 14?
It's pretty clear. They got their own paragraphs.
No problem, thank you, Chairman.
That's all right. Audits. This is a new paragraph, 104A4.4. Each building official may audit the performance of approved agencies operating within their jurisdiction and demand that the owner or owner's authorized agent to know the times of requested building inspections by the approved agency, independent provider, although the fact of the audit shall not be given to the approved agency.
I think that independent provider was a tentacle that ought to be out of there. Requested building inspections by the approved agency, although the fact that the audit shall not be given.
To the,
The words independent provider should be taken out.
I'm looking for them.
Fourth
Line
line.
43,
Oh, there it is.
yeah.
Got it. Strike that. And I can say it, I've seen this where, when did they do the inspection? A while ago. Cool. Can you narrow that down? No. Audits may be conducted only after the building official has created a formal audit evaluation. Same approved agency may be audited no more than 4 times in a month, unless the building official determines that the condition of a building constitutes an immediate threat to public safety and welfare. Not to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I want to tell you all a story. So 45 years ago, I was in the insurance business in Northern Virginia. And at a place called Bailey's Crossroads, we were building, my company insured a new high-rise, a 14-story high-rise. And Arlington County inspected it, the engineers inspected it, and the old lady engineer from my insurance company went out and looked at it and she said, cancel the coverage. They don't know what they're doing. And they pulled the concrete off, they pulled the forms off of the concrete. The pour was inadequate, the rebar was inadequate, and they pulled the forms off too early. It should have been good enough, and the building collapsed, and people died. So, this is a subject near and dear to my heart. If it constitutes a threat to public safety, you need to be able to stop people. And it does happen sometimes with malintent, sometimes just through, they just screwed up. But it does happen. Paragraph D, building official may, upon clear and convincing evidence, decide the independent provider has been negligent in providing construction document reviews or building inspections, suspend the approved agency from further work on the project and in that municipality for not more than 1 year. You're not playing fair, you're out of the game.
So this is as a result of an audit,
Correct.
we see that this inspector didn't do their job.
Right. So you're off the team for a year.
Got it. Okay.
And
Uh,
the bill was unclear, at least to me, as to whether that suspension applied statewide or only in the municipality. But there's no state registry of any of this stuff. So,
And a building official would only have jurisdiction within their,
exactly.
so that, this makes perfect sense.
We added those words is my point.
Thank you.
Mhm.
New paragraph heading, no new content, 104.5 limits placed on the municipality. New subsection 104.5.3 appeals. Notwithstanding any provisions in this section, any decision other than negligence regarding the issues addressed by this section may be appealed to the Building Code Review Board, which shall adjudicate the dispute per statute. If an applicant believes that the Building Code Review Board has interpreted the requirements for this section in error, the approved agency or owner's authorized agent may file a proceeding under RSA 155A12 seeking a determination that the issues addressed by this section comply with all relevant requirements, and seek that any order of the building official to issue any necessary building fits or certificates of occupancy or completion. That's all new. That makes sense. We've got a whole page of struck stuff, another whole page of struck stuff, all of which has been replaced. And that takes us to page 13. Severability, the provisions of this, that's not a change, so we're going to leave that as it was. Number 6 at the end, this act shall take effect upon passage, I think is what we discussed.
Yeah, I think there's some standard language that they use for that, but
Yeah, well, it's,
To
you've
that
got
effect.
this act shall take effect 60 days after the passage is what's in the bill. We were going to have it take effect upon passage.
Do the municipalities have to prepare anything to get this going?
all that
That's usually why
clockwork
these delays.
BCRB in motion to get the amendment written,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to take 60 days anyway,
Okay.
so plus or minus.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know how good a note taker I've been, but
Well, I marked this copy up.
okay.
You can read my handwriting. All right, so we've marked up these amendments. Do we want to adopt this subject to further amendment at the committee, the full committee, with feedback from, we have a couple of on the limits of liability issue? And wasn't there something else you were going to get back to us on? Code reference by year. Right.
Right.
And then we can take, if we're going to adopt this, then we can take that up at the full committee. Sure. Okay, we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor? All right. I'm gonna call this meeting adjourned.
Okay. So,
So I have a form they've given me here.
okay.
421.
Well, there's a housing lunch at noon. Oh. Matt Mayberry is sponsor. Thank you for working with us. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. This.
Yeah.